Hello everybody, welcome back to RimWorld 1.0 tutorials. Today we are talking about stockpiles. Actually a very quick thing to talk about, but something that does need to be talked about because depending on where you put your stockpile, how you have your stockpile ordered, might determine whether or not your colonists will die. And here's what I mean. If, say, you were to put all of your stuff, thank you music for kicking in when you did, that just scared the crap out of me. Let me turn that down. Say you put all of your food into one stockpile along with all of your other stuff, which at the beginning part of the game might work, but not later game because you kind of need it all separated because the food has to be refrigerated. But say you did that and you ran out of room or whatever, they weren't gathering stuff out here, say if we wanted to harvest these, and they just left them out here because there was no room in the stockpile anymore. It could cause a problem because, well, with heal root, say someone's injured, they weren't able to bring the heal root in, and they had to go all the way across the map to heal one of your colonists. It could be a problem. If you allow your food to rot because you don't have it in the proper one, there's an issue. If you have too much food and they just leave it out here in the field, it might deteriorate to the point to where you don't have any food, in which case, what do you do with excess food? How do you get them to store it and where to store it at? So, Miner is no longer incapable of walking. Thank you. It has been a while since the last game. As you can see, I've grown the colony a little bit. They've done a bit of fighting and moving things around. We finally got the defenses. That does not need to be closed off anymore. As a matter of fact, none of these need to be closed off anymore. You can go through those doors, my bad. We've got our outer defenses. We've got these to keep them from being able to sit on top of the walls and hit the walls as much. You know, just to discourage the general fighter type of person. And yeah, we've done quite a bit of killing. The next step in the process of all of this is going to be getting the defenses shored up. And right here is going to be our new med bay because that is something that this colony needs at this particular point. Though I think that's going to be in the next video. Right now we're going to talk about the stockpiles in general. Right here you can see we've got two stockpiles pretty close together. So why did I do this? Well, right here we have our tailoring bench. Here we have all of the raw materials for the tailoring, I guess you could say. And if you look, this is unimportant. I don't usually put things as critical unless I know that they're probably not going to go anywhere else in the colony. Critical is like, okay, so right now since I don't have the med lab and I have got a couple of colonists that are really, really sick and they're being put up here in the rooms because I don't have a med lab. Maybe what I want to do is put a stockpile right here and critical and clear all, and I want to put in, hold on, God, you know what? I've got two cameras and one gets in the way. Okay, manufactured, and I want them to put herbal medicine here. That would force them to take it out of whatever stockpile I might have been storing it in and move it up here, which would facilitate taking care of all of the characters faster. So I save critical for when I need something moved urgently. And that would typically work, so I save that one just for that occasion. Otherwise I put it as important. That way I don't have to go around and look all over the colony to see if I have another critical and lower the priority. I know none of mine are critical. This one is probably the one exception, but I do have it as preferred, not even as important. Just because I took my food out of these stockpiles. They shouldn't go in here at all. See, no food in these stockpiles. I've turned them off. So, yeah, maybe save the critical in case you need something moved to a specific area for a specific job. Like, if I was to put up, I don't know, component making and we needed steel. Well, I've got steel over here. I might have steel in a couple of other places where we're working or something like that, and I would put critical there so it'd be the first spot filled up. That might be a reason why I would boost something to critical, but for now, this is unimportant. This is the only place where they're allowed to store the textiles that are raw. Actually, I think they're still allowed here, but this is the lowest priority of all of them. The general storage area, wherever you decide to just like the fill over, the I don't know what all is going to go everywhere because the colony's not big enough, that's kind of like your dumping stockpile of all of your stuff. Probably should put that on like a low priority, which this one's on normal. As we get bigger, this one will probably actually go on low priority. It's just not right now. So yeah, I've moved all of this stuff out here, so I don't have to go to this big stockpile to get all the stuff, but of course it's an easy walk to put these in here, and not quite enough room in the colony at the size that it is to separate them. So right here I would say stockpile's okay for now, though it will change. Let's see. Is there anything else I wanted to tell you about the stockpile? Oh yes, the major thing about a stockpile, if you will look here on the beauty, you see where the numbers are stopping? I can't really zoom in any further, but if you'll notice the numbers telling you the beauty of the area stop at the doorways, even though the doors are open. Right now they are all held open. So you can have a stockpile with the door held open. So you're not even getting, look at all this nastiness that's going on in here. It's not even coming up here. This is a separate room, separate room, separate room, separate room. Holding the doors open means your colonists don't have to stop to open the doors, but the beauty is considered a separate location, which is what I was talking about during like the first couple of videos when I said it's probably a better idea to put them in a separate room, and so people don't get the mood debuffs from being in a bad work environment. It's easy to section these areas off, put a door there and just hold it open so they're still not having to take the time to open the doors. As far as the food here, you can see I've got two different stockpiles, and the reason being is, if they will get, there we go. The reason being is because this has to do with zones, which I also do want to talk about today. We've got the opening here for just the raw foods, the dead bodies, the whatever. This is on preferred. I do have a secondary stockpile over here that is on low. So if we get a big harvest in, which, you know, we might eventually get another harvest in because we got a lot of corn coming up. Speaking of which, we have a... Thank you. We have a drone for the female gender. If you don't know what that is, a distant engine of hate is stirring on all the females. Can feel it. This guy needs to go home. He is bugged somehow or another. I'm not sure what happened precisely. But he's stuck here. He's been here forever. He keeps eating our food. He won't go away. So, welcome, Mr. White, to our colony. You're just going to sleep on the floor forever. Oh, we do need a research. Let's see. I've gone ahead and gotten all the research that I think we would probably have at this point. But go ahead with the flak armor. We do have a research bench. Okay, now to show you why I have it sectioned off this way. First off, closer to the dining area, obviously. The closer it is, the faster they're going to get the food, the faster they're going to get back to whatever it is. But if you'll take a look at these, my haulers, which are my pups that I've gotten, they are not allowed in this section right here, which means they're not going to be eating our prepared food. Now, there are two different minds about this. If you give them a prepared food, it fills up their meter a bit faster on their meals, but it took work of one of my colonists to create that food. And then that colonist also needs to eat. So, in my opinion, I can make kibble for the animals, which is fine. But as far as the meals prepared for my people, I want my people to eat it. So I restrict my haulers out of the bedrooms. As you can see, they're not allowed in the bedrooms or the rec rooms or whatever because they do, in fact, cause dirt. As a matter of fact, they're not supposed to be in here either. But they're allowed in all of the areas where, you know, any of the hauling is going to have to be, including in here so they can help bring in the food. The easiest way to handle this, and I'll show you really quick how to do that, manage areas, create a new area, rename it, whatever you want to call it. Say I wanted to just put my dogs here because I'm training all my dogs to haul. Okay. Then we take this and we're going to expand it for the dogs, but we don't want the dogs, say, in just this room. We don't want them in this room. Right now, I've just allowed them into this room, but the way to fix that is go to manage dogs and invert. Now, the only place they can't go into is this area. So you just invert it. Select the areas you don't want them to go into, because sometimes it might be easier just to say don't go into this area than to tell them where they can go, instead of having to select the entire map, sectioning out the parts you don't want them to go into. Just select the area you don't want them to go into and then invert it. It took me quite a few sessions of this before I realized that was a thing that you could do. So quick tip there. And And also a very good idea to do that for your haulers. And you may want to do it to where they can only drop off at like this section of your refrigerator. That way they can only eat out of that section of your refrigerator. And then leave this section up here to where you know that they can't eat this food, and have your colonists move it. You could actually take a stockpile here, create a stockpile here that's low priority, a stockpile here that's high priority, all for raw food. That way the animals bring it inside, they drop it here. Then your colonists take it from here and put it into the other stockpile. That's another way to do it. But as I'm not creating kibble for them, my dogs have to eat. And my muffalo and all of, what do all I have in here? Oh, I've also got a rabbit. A couple of rabbits for meat, you know, should we decide to go that route. But, yeah, if you want to make it to where they don't even get in here, say, I want the dogs to be able to eat the meat, I could take a stockpile, put it here, or even here, it doesn't really matter how you decide to section it out, and just allow them into the area where the food is that they need to get to. And you don't have to draw lines to it. They will find the shortest path between a section they're allowed to another section they're allowed to. Let's see, other things about stockpiles. Should you decide to put a stockpile in here, inside your prisoner's ward, say I decide to drop a stockpile right here and right here, whatever is placed in these stockpiles, hang on. Oh yeah, you can hide those, I forgot about that. Anyway, if you decide to do this, whatever gets stored here is considered your prisoner's stuff. You can have your colonists make new clothes for them, because sometimes these guys come in and, hold on, where's your gear? Okay, 92%, 57% on the pants. They will get a negative mood buff from their clothing being tattered. If you wanted to, at your workbench, say, I don't know, make a build to do tribal wear, and do that 2 times. We're going to put a piece of tribal wear here and here, and that's all that's allowed here. We could put critical priority on both of these. That way, automatically, it doesn't matter what else is going on, wherever else there is, I want a piece of tribal wear in each one of these for my prisoners. Then I would clear all and go to, let's say, apparel, and, where is it? Tribal, and allow rotten. Don't allow rotten, rather. And we're just going to copy the setting and we're going to paste it here. And that gives me the exact same thing. So whenever that clothing gets made, they will put it here and it will belong to the prisoner. So when the prisoner gets tired of the clothes that they're wearing, they will put it on. But should you, I don't know, somehow or another manage to put a stockpile of kibble here, and you change it out from your barn to your prison, and somehow or another the stockpile never gets reassigned, that kibble now becomes your prisoners. Your colonists are not going to mess with it. They're not going to take it away. You could put a stockpile of food there for your prisoners, so you wouldn't have to constantly come and feed them. That's a possibility, but it also means that if you run out of food up here, your colonists will still not go down here and get the meals. At least I don't think they would. I'm not sure. I've never actually tried to see if they would take the meals if they were hungry enough. I don't know. That's an experiment we could try to see whether or not they would do that. I don't think they would, though. Harry is experienced. Harry? Dude. Whose first name is Harry that I wasn't paying attention to? Oh, you poor guys. I really haven't been paying that much attention to you guys. I have been... The prostitute. Harry the novelist. Harry. Ari, you're inspired. Okay, now everybody's getting inspired to do stuff. Okay, let me see. Anything else on stockpiles? I'm trying to think. Sometimes it's a good idea to have separate stockpiles just close to a certain area. Say... I don't know, maybe... If there was a particular cloth that I wanted to use specifically for this, say, okay, we've got muffalo right here, and I want to maybe tell them to use the muffalo for fur first, because that's what most of our clothes are going to be made out of. We're probably not going to sell it at all. That's like one of our commodities. So we would clear all and put... no, it's a textile. Textile right here, and we need... Muffalo wool. And we'll put that, I don't know, up on important. This is on important. This is up to critical then. And they would move that out of here. It would put it right here. And they would be able to get to it really, really fast. The person making the stuff wouldn't have to move very far. So some people do that in the kitchen. So they put a small pile here. Right there. Actually, no, it wouldn't be right there. If it was right here, right next to where they're sitting. If you put a stockpile here for, say, your vegetables, your colonists technically would never have to move from their spot, really, to pick up the food and make the food. Somebody would probably, usually, especially the dogs in this case, if you allowed them into the kitchen, would move the food and refill the pile for you. The person making the food wouldn't actually have to move. The only thing that could possibly make that better is if, let's see, furniture, you were to put a stool underneath it. Because that does actually factor into it. They technically have to step into the square, but with the stool there, they don't actually have to step into it, they just kind of lean down. And somehow or another, the game does account for that, which is pretty cool, but we're not going to do either one of those, because I don't like doing that. It looks messy to me, and I don't like the idea that there's a possibility that the food might spoil before someone uses it. Now, if your colony has, say, I don't know, 15 or 20 people, you might need to do that because you might need to produce it faster, or if you've got a small colony with very little bit of food and they're running out of food fast, you might want to set up this little stockpile and have them do that. Another time a stockpile would be important. I don't know what you're doing in there staring at Harry while he's sleeping. That's probably not the best idea. There's a turkey. Build is complete, and here we go. The stockpile is in the making. Now let's see what happens. Okay, thank you, Muffalo. And there it is. Now, if I'm not mistaken, I can't even tell him to come over here and do anything. Yeah, he can. If I force him to do it, he will. Which is unusual. Oh my gosh. Poor Tribalware. Well, at least that one's normal. She can change into it if she wants to. Let me see. Anything else that I need to say? Oh yeah, something else that has saved me with, say, the zones. Expand allowable area, manage area. Let's actually take that one off because I don't need it. New area, rename, here and now. I always make one of these inside my colonies, and here is why. Say there's a big harvest coming in, and you can't get anybody to actually get the harvest done, and you're running out of food in your cooler. Or if there's a blight, and you need them to cut all the plants so you can get the next grouping of food to come in. Let's see, orders, cut plants. Just say, I hate to do this because this is really going to screw them up, but if I needed to do that because they were blighted, I would do this, and not everybody's going to come over here, so I would go to the restrict and tell everybody here and now. That means they have to go to this section, and they have to do the jobs that are there. If you need to have an area where it needs to be cleaned and it needs to be cleaned now because people are breaking, use the here and now, make sure you delete it from the last section, make sure you unrestrict them when they're done, and they will eventually get to it. One thing you can do is to make sure that whenever you do this, that you allow everybody to do the job no matter how bad they might be at it. That way they have something to do, they're not just going to sit there and stargaze like Tony here, who is, for one reason or another, sleeping. Wake up Tony and help them. Alright, and now they're getting it all cut. And it's done. And see, that would have taken so long had we just let it gone on. And for everybody who has ever had to deal with blight in this game, that is some of the most frustrating thing, because the longer it sits there, the worse it gets. It spreads. New plants get blighted. Slate statue is done. Get out of there. But see, it all got done relatively quick, and all I had to do was do that, and then it's just as easy to take that off so that section is ready for the next time you need it. I've used that for blighted plants. I've used that for areas of the building that have gotten really, really dirty and I can't get anybody to clean because they're too busy. I will just set it up over a particular area that I want cleaned right then, and just set them all in it and make them clean it. Or if you need something hauled, you could put it on the section where it's at and the spot where you want them to take it to, and restrict everybody, and they have to haul because it's the only job that's there. How bad is this affecting people anyway? The drone, 8 without a table. You are male. Low psychic drone, 12, 12, 12. 12. Okay, across the board it is 12. So yeah, that's some way you can use, like, restricting zones and stockpiles. I'm trying to think if there's anything else that has to do with the stockpiles. Obviously, everything inside these stockpiles you can fluidly change. The stockpiles can completely change as you go along, because like this one, I could take out the textiles. I don't actually need them in here. So I could just click that off and they'll stop putting it over here in general. But as long as there's a stockpile with a higher priority, they will fill this one up first. Having an overflow stockpile is a good idea. That way nothing gets left out. So in this case, I would leave it on. That way the overflow can go in there. Overflow can cause a problem. Say if your freezer's full and everything's getting moved and you don't know why where it's at, suddenly there's like meat dying, meat degrading or spoiling or whatever, and you're like, but my cooler is fine. And then you find out that this one was full, so they started putting it in the overflow area. It might be time to take it out of the overflow area, and at the very least, if you are full inside your freezer, take the food and give it to your pets. At least it's being used for something. Or maybe increase the amount of meals, the type of meals, sell it. I mean, there's a lot of options to get rid of it like that. Something else would be, say you can't figure out why someone's not bringing it to a certain stockpile, always check and make sure it's allowed in that area, that the priority is higher, and that your colonists are allowed to get to that area, because there's a lot of times, like especially after a fight, that they'll be restricted, and you won't realize that the colonist has been restricted, because it's very easy when you're doing this right here or this right here. See, somebody got left out right there. One person would have been left unrestricted. So always check with those. And whenever you restrict people, let's see, hang on. Expand area to home. Okay, right now home should include all of these areas. Say I expand further, but I don't increase the zone that I want them in. Say there's a reason why you have them restricted to that. Case in point, whenever you come into another... A digger is passing by? Okay. Say you come onto a map, and it's got caves, and there are bugs there. You don't want to deal with the bugs when you first start out, because there's a few too many. You can, of course, say... expand, manage, new area. We're just gonna do whatever on that one, and we're gonna go area 2 and say the bugs were here. I don't want anybody to go here, so let's manage areas and invert that. Now they can go everywhere but that area. See, now all the colonists are allowed there, so let's go to restrict, tell them to go everywhere but that spot so as to not trigger the bugs. Say if you do something like that, you have to remember eventually you're going to take them out of that area, so check. See, that one was unrestricted still. It's very, very easy to accidentally miss one. And also there is a shift click and a shift right click to set to restrict and, unrestricted and home. Sadly, there's not a hotkey for moving them back and forth between the other areas. It would be nice, especially when it comes to the animal areas. Because in my other playthrough, if you've watched me, I'm having to restrict my animals, unrestrict my animals. My animals are in a couple of different groups, so it would be nice if there was a hotkey, but as of right now, there's not hotkeys for doing anything other than unrestricted and home. But that is a step up. I hope all of this stuff made sense. Managing your stockpiles is very, very important. It takes a little bit of work to figure out what you're comfortable with, whether or not you want to put the little stockpiles here, if you want to put them just in a general area like I do. But always remember, typically what goes in a stockpile is not attractive to your colonists at all. So try to separate your stockpile from the work area, and once you find areas where a certain element is needed, make a stockpile to make it quicker for your colonists to do what it is they're needing. We will be doing our defenses soon, and I will probably start out with wood like I did everything else, and then upgrade to the stone. So I have already prepped a spot right here for the wood to be moved over. Geisha has given birth to Beelzebub. Welcome, Beelzebub. Please don't cause any hell. And Maraca. And look at this baby muffalo. That's a berry bush. That's a muffalo. Okay, so this colony is coming along. It really, really is. It's looking nice. The next one we're going to be talking about next stage of development. This is kind of a medium colony. This is after you've gotten quite a few people and your colonist has really grown. The next step is making a full-on workshop and making sure our defenses are ready and getting an actual hospital in. Those are the next steps. We even have a nice little farm going on, so we'll probably have an episode where we'll talk about that. I've never done a science experiment to find out which animal is the best bang for your buck. I can tell you that each animal has like a specific thing that, you know, it's good for, so we'll probably have a conversation about that. If you have any questions or comments, I have no idea whether or not I hit on everything having to do with a cougars. That's 2 of them. Okay. Well, I guess this is as good a time as any to talk about restrictions. First off, let's restrict everybody to the home area. We don't want anybody outside while it's to figure out which way they're coming. Oh, and there they are. Let's get everybody to the front lines. And pause. Okay, NG. Conrad. That's not supposed to be forbidden. We have got several people who do not fight, but we are going to set them up as if they do. NG, you actually probably need to stop back here. Let's stop everybody back here because we're not going to get a chance to get them all lined up. And this is my recommendation for those who are not fighters. Bring them up to the fight and have them posted around a corner where they can't get hurt. That way, if anybody goes down, you have somebody to haul them out of the battle without having to take one of your colonists who is a fighter out. Tony, thank you for eventually joining us. We appreciate that. If y'all could hunt that thing until it dies, please. But we will get into the combat. Whenever we go to finish this, we will definitely get into the combat aspect of that. So I am glad that we've got some non-violent people so that we can talk about that aspect as well. Like I said, if you have any questions, comments, or anything like that, any ways that you have found to work your stockpiles in your colony for the betterment of your colony, I would like to hear it. I would love to have more pointers on how to make them better, because I'm not 100%, know everything kind of person. I don't pretend to. Just the things that I have learned so far, and I wanted to share them with you. So I would love it if you would share your ideas and your concerns with me. I'll see you next time. You have a wonderful day, a wonderful night, and you stay shiny. Bye!